I've drunk wines from Daggerford to Cormyr, but I've never known a taste as rich as yours. Gods damn it! You almost make me forget myself. But I still keep faith in the old tales of love. The once upon a times and the happily ever afters. I'd like to do this the proper way. The way of the old romances sung by the bards.
Hey guys, it's DVD Gamer Girl here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I had an interesting video idea on ranking the Baldur's Gate 3 companion romances by their attachment style in the relationship. And I've split up some of the characters by their good and evil paths. Like, for example, like Spawn Astarion and Ascended Astarion are so dramatically different that I feel like it doesn't make sense to just rank Astarion singly. So I've kind of split up by their different paths. And before doing this, I did a little bit of research on the attachment styles. So let me just quickly show what my understanding is of the attachment styles and kind of explain how I will rank them. So for me, secure attachment style means that they are very confident. They have a really good sense of self-worth. They do accept support. I think some other things about secure attachment is that they're comfortable with emotional intimacy, they are very trusting, set boundaries properly, communicate clearly, and they don't really have a fear of abandonment or have any problems with getting emotionally close. Next is anxious attachment style, which here it says you're clingy, highly emotional, always seeking reassurance. So I feel like this is the kind of person who does really crave closeness, but is afraid of kind of being left behind, which makes them more clingy. They might be overly apologetic or very emotionally reactive, and I think they would often be putting others' needs above their own out of fear. Next, there's the avoidant attachment style, which means the person is distant, unemotional, avoids closeness, like they're very emotionally guarded. They kind of want to protect themselves essentially, and they will push people away emotionally, avoid vulnerability, and might see emotional needs as weakness. Then we have disorganized, which is kind of a combination of things. It's very intense, a very push-pull, unpredictable, someone who wants connection but also fears it, alternates between pulling somebody close and pushing them away. And this is kind of sometimes a trauma response type of thing. Doesn't necessarily have to be though. So based on these descriptions is how I'm going to be ranking these characters. So let's start with Spawn Astarion. So in my opinion, I feel like Astarion definitely has an anxious attachment style. And the reason I say that is because he's very insecure. He's afraid of expressing love in the beginning. He is afraid to tell you that, he might not necessarily want to be physically intimate at certain times. And particularly there is a scene when if you express interest in Halsin and you talk to Astarion and say that you're interested in Halsin as well, he says, oh, is it because, I haven't been good enough for you, or we haven't been having sex enough and stuff like that. So I feel like he is very, overall, like when you progress really well into his romance, the anxious attachment style really shows up. Like in the beginning, it's very confusing and, you might think he's a little bit more disorganized, but I feel like overall his attachment style is anxious because he's in constant need of reassurance. He always has self-doubt, and most of that is kind of a trauma response to, never being able to really fully be his true self with all the abuse that he endured from Cazador. So I feel like his is pretty clear, and he is very highly emotional, your relationship does mean a lot to him. Now let's talk about Ascended Astarion. Ascended Astarion is really hard to rate because to me it almost feels like it's not even a relationship at that point. It's just like a very unfair, controlling power dynamic, especially when you're his spawn, you can't even break up with him, you're basically trapped into this relationship. So it's almost like it needs a category of its own, but if I was to rank him in these categories, I would definitely put him in avoidant because he doesn't really attach to you very emotionally. He's very dismissive of the relationship. He doesn't really let you in, and it's a very unfair power dynamic, and I feel like that's like the best that I can rank him, but it's not even really avoidant in a way that he's trying to protect himself. It's more just like he sees himself as so much better than you, and he sees you as someone to control, essentially. So yeah, that one is a little weird to rank. Okay, now let's talk about the good path of Shadowheart, where she basically rejects Shar and she's very emotionally invested in your relationship. I think I would definitely put Shadowheart in secure because, you know, she does have her walls up a little bit in the beginning, but it's not really so much so that she has a problem opening up to people. It's just that she's a little bit guarded and she waits to trust you. But I feel like once you actually start the relationship with her, she's very secure in the relationship. Like she's not too clingy. She doesn't need too much reassurance. She's also not, you know, very guarded and having her walls up anymore. So it feels like it's a very healthy, emotionally regulated relationship with Shadowheart once you actually get into the romance with her. Now when it comes to Dark Justiciar Shadowheart, I would also honestly put her in avoidant because she becomes very emotionally guarded. Her heart belongs to Shar. She basically turns your romance into more of like a lustful relationship where she's really only offering you physical intimacy and no longer emotionally intimacy. So because of her walls going back up, I'm just gonna put her in avoidant, but she is kind of similar in terms of, you know, Ascended Astarion in that it's not so much of romance anymore, and it's a very different type of relationship at that point. But I think out of these categories, avoidant probably fits them the best. Okay, now let's talk about regular Gale. I would definitely put Gale in an anxious attachment style. I feel like he constantly does need reassurance, and I do find him very clingy. Like he yaps a lot about the relationship, and he's anxious in the sense that he's always asking you how you feel about him, and like when you spend the night with him, he asks you how you feel about your night together, and you know, he kind of expects you to say something nice and just be really reassuring to him that the night meant as much to you as it did to him. And if you don't answer in that way, he doesn't take it very well. Like he gets very emotional about that. So kind of Gale's emotional volatility and just like need for reassurance definitely for me puts him in the anxious attachment style. He doesn't come across as avoidant or anything to me at all because he's very open with his emotions. So that's definitely not the case. So next let's talk about God Gale. God Gale again, I mean, he's going in avoidant because he's very dismissive and kind of like cold towards you, I feel like. His walls kind of go back up and his priority generally becomes his godhood and, you know, being ambition incarnate, and the romance definitely becomes a less of a priority to him. So I would put him in avoidant, but again, I'm having a really hard time ranking these ascended versions of characters because I feel like it's, you know, it's a completely different dynamic at that point. Like, now let's talk about regular Lae'zel. Lae'zel, you know, it's kind of hard to me because in the very beginning, she's obviously very much avoidant. She basically keeps the relationship very, very physical in the beginning, and she says, you know, I don't want to cuddle and I don't want to have emotions involved and stuff like that, which is very much of giving avoidant. But as you progress in the relationship with her, I feel like she becomes very, very open, more emotionally vulnerable. I honestly feel like Lae'zel has so much emotional growth by the end of the game that I'm gonna put her in a secure attachment style. Just to be clear, at the beginning of the game, I would say she's very avoidant because she doesn't want to get very involved emotionally and it's just purely physical, and she has her walls up and she's just very emotionally rigid. But I think she develops and changes so much throughout the game and her emotions that by the end, I would basically say that she's very secure in the relationship. She's not very clingy, doesn't look for too much reassurance, but she also doesn't have her walls up anymore, and she's very emotionally vulnerable with you. So yeah. For Lae'zel though, who goes on the Vlaakith Ascension route, I mean, she literally does break up with you. So I feel like for, Ascended Astarion, Dark Justiciar, Shadowheart, and God Gale, like they have some form where you basically stay in the relationship with them. But for Lae'zel, I mean, she literally goes and dies. So I just feel like she needs her own category maybe, which is, no romance. Romance is over. I don't know. Like, I don't really know how to rate that. Next for Karlach. Karlach is a little bit hard for me because I feel like she kind of falls somewhere between secure and anxious. Like, she is overall very secure in the relationship, but I feel like she does need constant reassurance. She's afraid of abandonment. She's craving physical intimacy and emotional intimacy on like a really deep level, especially not being able to be touched for so long. And generally, I think I will put her in anxious because I do feel like she does need a lot of reassurance, and she's always like overly reassuring you as well. She's like very clingy, and she kind of just is a little bit overbearing. And another thing is, I feel like she downplays sometimes her own needs in order to make you feel good. So she'll kind of mask her, unhappiness or fear, etc. with joy. And overall, though, I feel like it's very obvious that she really needs that attachment, that emotional intimacy, and that reassurance. So I'm still gonna stick her in anxious, though I feel like she is a very secure partner overall. I think she is like a little bit clingy and in need of reassurance because of her past traumas. Okay, for Wyll, I'm definitely gonna put Wyll in secure attachment. Wyll is generally very self-assured with his relationship with you. He doesn't seem to be overly clingy. He doesn't really have any walls up. He's very emotionally vulnerable, I would say, and he's just very emotionally mature in terms of the relationship, and he's very secure in the relationship. He doesn't have any volatility or any walls or any type of push-pull situation. It's always very clear where you stand in the relationship with Wyll. For Halsin, I think honestly, I would also stick him in, is he secure or is he avoidant? Halsin is a little bit difficult as well. I think overall, I'll be putting him in secure. I mean, because he is very clear about what he wants from you. He never, acts like overly clingy or also not telling you how he feels. Like, he's very open about his feelings. He's very open about the polyamory, and he always explains to you, his emotions and why he does certain things. The only reason I was thinking about maybe putting him in avoidant is I know he does have some repressed traumas that he rarely ever talks about, but I think that's more of, an avoidant in terms of his personality, not really so much an avoidant attachment style in the romance. I feel like his attachment style in the romance is still very secure regardless of anything else. Okay, for Minthara, honestly, to me, Minthara does feel quite secure, but I would kind of place her somewhere between secure and avoidant. Secure for me is almost like a joke, like you're running joke at this point with Minthara, because you just cannot break up with her. Like, I don't know if that's like an issue with the game that they didn't like add the options for tab to break up with her, or if it's like intentional or what the heck it is, but you can't break up with her. So of course she's gonna be secure because, there's nothing to worry about. You can't break up. But I would also say she's like a little bit avoidant because she's kind of emotionally guarded in general. But I would say that overall, like, she does trust your player character if you do romance her. So in terms of the emotional attachment, I would say it's very secure. Like, she never worries about anything else. She's very clear about her intentions. She doesn't really have walls up with you when you're in the romance with her. And she's definitely not anxious in terms of being clingy or anything like that. So that about sums up, my thoughts on the BG3 companions' attachment styles. I'm still like a little bit conflicted about having put Ascended Astarion, DJ Shadowheart, and God Gale in avoidant, but I don't know. Those ones are really hard to rank. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts, like if you feel the rankings make sense and how you feel about it. And I hope you guys are having a great week. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.